Hey, welcome back. Man, you are going to love our next guest. This guy is cut from the same cloth I'm cut from. He was an English teacher, coach, poet, wrote at least a half a dozen poetry books. My name is Vin Dacquino. Our guest, Reggie Marra.
Hi, Vin.
Reg, what a pleasure, man. Hearing your background is like hearing my own. I used to cheat. I used to do my poetry and my writing weekends and nights, steal time to do it.
Sure.
Tell me a little bit about Reggie Marra. Where did it all start for you? Is this the area you grew up in? What?
Yeah, so it began literally, I like to say 13.8 or so billion years ago. And I landed, took me that long to land in Yonkers in the mid-50s.
That's the Bang Theory.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
And you banged your way through Yonkers.
Yeah, I did that. I loved school growing up. I was fortunate enough to get to know some really good teachers. I went back and taught at my alma mater, which was Sacred Heart in Yonkers, where I also coached basketball.
Catholic school. Oh, so that's where you made the big bucks.
Yeah, well, that's why I eventually left, because had I been in a public district and stayed, I could.
Money just was not there.
Yeah.
My sister worked there. I mean, she was making a little less than McDonald's and Burger King.
Yeah. But basically, so when I left that, I actually moved into becoming a teaching poet, going into schools and helping teachers and students write poetry, which my close friends and colleagues joked was the one place I could go that I could make less than I was making as a Catholic school teacher with no health care or anything. But I just followed what I felt driven to do. So I'm an educator by birth, I think, and probably a writer too. And I'm fortunate enough now in 2018 to be working in a way that allows me to write, to coach individuals one-on-one.
I mean, that's one of the reasons why I do this.
Yeah.
Because I retired from teaching, and once you get used to being at the front of the classroom, you're on, man. Every day for me was another show.
Sure.
You know, and I used to love getting up there and entertaining the kids. And so it's a different world. So you did that for a while. Then you did the writing. Then you did speaking at schools, almost like a resident poet.
Resident poet, yeah.
Yeah, wow.
So I did that gradually I found a way to integrate all of it. So I did a coach training in the early 2000s. So I have some professional coaching chops. Coaching meaning one-on-one coaching with adults, as opposed
and you're about like 6'3", so you would or less.
I'm shooting for 5'7" someday, but I think I'm starting to get smaller now.
With me too. I'm 5'7", standing on a stool. It's surprising to hear basketball, but you had an interesting. But you did play basketball. And you had a love for it?
Yeah, I had a love for it. I had a couple of guys on my block, and then one of my cousins who was a really good basketball player at Dobbs Ferry High School in the 60s, and so he was kind of like my big brother growing up. And so that was where the interest came from. I learned moving forward, though, that I was a much better middle and long distance runner than I ever was a basketball player. But that's, I loved the game, though. So coaching it was a lot of fun for me.
So that's interesting. So then you coached that for a while. And you... and the poetry. Now, where did this love for poetry come from? Do you have poets that you idolize?
I have a lot of poets I like now, but my love for poetry emerged when I heard a song on the radio. It was a songwriter first that really woke me up. Really? Junior year in high school, NEWFM, and I heard these words, sung by a voice I hadn't heard before. 1970. I have seen the morning burning golden on a mountain in the sky, aching with the feeling of the freedom of an eagle when she flies. That was Chris Christopherson.
Yeah, wow.
And so I loved what he was writing, but then I read his story as a Rhodes Scholar and a boxer, an Army Ranger.
I didn't even know he was a boxer. Wow.
Yeah. So he was living this full life by the time he was 33 that I didn't know was possible. So he opened up a possibility that I didn't know of when I was 16. And but I wanted to be able to write the way he was writing.
See, and it was amazing because when I was in school, my teachers really were not readers and writers. And I have to honestly say that my elementary school teachers and junior high and high school teachers were not really my inspiration for reading. My inspiration for writing, I did write an essay, believe it or not, on dirigibles.
Okay. Yeah.
And my English teacher said, "That's well done." I mean, I never had an appreciation for dirigibles until I read your piece. And I was like, wow, I did that?
Yeah.
You know? And that was an early inspiration in high school, but it wasn't until college where I was really meeting authors I had never seen before. I fell in love with Shakespeare's sonnets. A nun, 90-year-old nun, said, "I want to show you something." And she had a beautiful blue silk-covered copy of the sonnets. And she would read some of those sonnets to me. And it got me to read. And she gave it to me as a gift. And I just fell in love with the whole idea of writing by pattern and the whole idea of a set pattern for a poem. Well, my emails to a paranormal, and I have another written in the same thing. They're poems.
Okay.
And they're 10-line poems. And there's like 10 to a chapter, like 3 chapters to a section. So it's amazing what you can do with poetry once you begin to feel it. It becomes a part of you. What do you write about, Reg?
I've found that it takes a strong emotion to get me to sit down and really work on a poem. So something has to move me deeply in order to get me to write poetry.
Well, you've been doing a lot of moving with the...
Yeah, so most recently, I mentioned to you, earlier that we sent a copy of my most recent book we sent one to each congressperson, each member of Congress, each Supreme Court justice, and the president, vice president on September 4th. And it basically, I can just mention the title of the book is
go ahead.
Is Killing.
And hold it up.
Yeah, Killing America.
Just set it right there like that for the camera.
And then the subtitle, which we deliberately made it not subtle, is Our United States of Ignorance, Fear, Bigotry, Violence, and Greed.
Wow.
And I've gotten responses from 3 people so far.
Wow, really? What were the responses?
Well,
were they good or bad?
Two were just thank you for sending the book. They didn't really know what it was. But one, Rosa DeLauro from Connecticut, she actually addressed, she knew what was in the book, whether she read it or not.
Wow.
So it was, I felt it was just necessary because I'm upset with what's going on down there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, I know this is going to jump you ahead.
Yeah, sure.
But I notice you have little Post-its in there.
Yeah.
Do you want to give us a little taste of something from Killing America?
Sure. I'll give you 2 short poems that are deliberately juxtaposed in there.
Okay.
And these are from 2 different views of our engagement in Iraq. In the 2003 invasion of Iraq.
Wow.
And the purpose is to juxtapose what happened to Iraqi civilians and what happened to United States men and women in uniform. So these are just 2 short poems. I'll read.
Okay.
The first one is entitled "What Tries to Escape," and it's a strong, pretty graphic poem, just so viewers can be aware. What tries to escape? 12-year-old bandaged head rests on the garish green, red, and beige pillow. Eyes full and focused, lips pressed together, suppress what tries to escape. Except for the triangle of neck, right shoulder, and breast, his scorched torso hides beneath white ointment. 3 or 4 inches of gauze caress the stumps that remain where he once had arms. So that was a 12-year-old child.
Oh, geez.
Juxtaposed with this one entitled Going Home. Going home. Near Kirkuk, 5 soldiers watch or work while 2 wheel the blood-soaked gurney from the inflated OR. The sergeant's leg amputated and discarded. Time will tell if he will be as well.
Oh, my God.
So just those are just 2 interpretations of photographs that came out.
Yeah, which is interesting.
Yeah, one of it.
I mean, because poems are photographs in themselves. Yeah. We can see what you're seeing by hearing your poem.
Yeah. So the purpose in there is, do you think either of those images is a good idea?
Yeah. I think it's important You know, can you see what I can see? You know, and feel what I can feel. Okay, and you wrote some other poetry books.
Yeah, there's a few here. I can, if you want to hear, just to hear about them or hear another poem.
I would like to hear about them, and then I'd like to hear something from them.
Yeah, so this and now still Grave and Goofy poems. It's
Grave and Goofy poems?
Yeah, Grave and Goofy. So the cover photograph is actually my family's grave marker in Hastings-on-Hudson. It has both my parents and my sister, who died at a very young age, at the age of 55. She died unexpectedly. And so there's one blank quarter to the cover of the book there, and it's a good reminder to me that one of these days, given enough time,
it's going to be your blank space.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, one poem I did write for her, for my sister, if you'd like to hear that.
Yes.
It actually has as much of a place in the Killing America book as it does in this book, but I just can, actually I know exactly where it is in this book, so let me find it there. It's called The Sniper, and it plays with the idea of what a sniper does, and it really speaks to our ability to take perspective on what's going on in any given moment. So this is The Sniper, and it's for Anne Marie. The sniper breathes deep, slow, squints through the scope, truth in the crosshairs, the solution, precisely committed to freeing the hostage. Last resort, attainable horizon, not a solution, but the solution when negotiation or hard work fails or takes too long. If only it were that easy, held hostage as we are, bliss and rage, reason and myth, memory, all of them, always them, without which we might see clearly, find freedom. Who is the sniper for the pain that holds you hostage? What does she see or not through her narrow scope as she squeezes the trigger? Another option, perhaps, just outside her field of view, a hair away from your final solution. We all play each role, taker, hostage, sniper, moment to moment holding, held, setting free, problem and solution. We love the scope, the crosshairs promise, at times too slow or quick to squeeze the trigger, release the solution's allure and terror.
Wow.
So there's a lot going on in that one.
Yeah, there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
What inspired you to write that?
So that particular poem was inspired by, there was a TV show which came out of Toronto some years ago called, I think it's called Flashpoint. And it's about their local law enforcement SWAT team. They actually, it was based on some real guys, but they were really good at negotiation before they had to use any kind of violence. And they would refer to the sniper as having the solution if he had a clear spot, clear shot. So that just that language of having the solution.
Yeah.
So when my sister passed away, she actually took her own life.
Oh. Wow.
Not with a weapon, but she did that. And so that language of having like her final solution for herself was one that I'd like to believe was one that had other options available that she just couldn't see because of the narrow scope of depression she was looking through.
It's interesting.
Yeah. So that's where the genesis of that poem came from. Yeah.
Wow. Pretty heavy.
I write some happy things too, but that's that's what that one was.
So far we haven't heard any of them, Reg. All right. So what else do you have there?
So, do you want
now, is there an order to these books?
Well, yeah, this is the most recent. Killing America is the most recent one,
okay.
And Grave and Goofy Poems was the one before that.
Second to last, okay.
Slightly, to shift just slightly, this is something I co-authored, and it's not poetry, it's nonfiction. It's called Coaching and Healing, Transcending the Illness Narrative. And I wrote this with, as amazing as it is to say, and you'll know this as an author, 9 colleagues and I did this together. We trained in the same coaching school, and we believe in using coaching as a healing modality, having one-on-one conversations with someone. And the idea that we can most of the narratives, in fact, today is the day after Election Day. I know probably shouldn't have said that. I don't know if
it's all right.
But it's most of the narratives politically in this country are illness narratives. It's about what's wrong with the other side.
Yep.
And what we learn to do as coaches working one-on-one with people is most people who are stuck and come to coaching have an illness narrative. I'm stuck because of this, and this. And it's about what's wrong. And
now, when you say coaching, what kind of coaching are you referring to?
Okay. So I identify as an integral coach because I trained at a place called Integral Coaching.
So it's not basketball coaching?
Oh, no, I'm talking about one-on-one coaching with adults.
Okay.
And so there's executive coaching, leadership coaching, health coaching. I coach human beings. It doesn't really matter to me what they do for a living. If you're stuck,
so it's more of a life coach.
Yeah, it's something. It's like that. Yeah. But if you're stuck and you're committed to doing some work to getting unstuck, I can help you move forward with that. So there is you basically try to shift someone's story from an illness narrative where this is what's wrong and it's wrong because of this and this and this, which you need to identify that, to how can I tell my story in a way that moves me in a direction of healing as opposed to being stuck in this illness narrative where everything is wrong. So it's a fairly complex process.
Right.
But it works and it's doable, and people are eminently grateful for it. And the cool thing is I can incorporate poetry into it because poets have been around for millennia, and there's some.
Yeah. It's amazing what you can do with poetry. Yeah. You know, as I said to you, like with Emails to a Paranormal, that's a novel. Yeah. But it's a novel written in poems. Yeah. So there's a lot you can do with poems.
Yeah. Well, one of my favorite quotes, Sigmund Freud is alleged to have said, "Everywhere I go, a poet has been there before me." So when he was developing his own model of psychotherapy, and he was the pioneer, there wasn't anybody before him for the most part, even though some people want to discredit him now. But he basically said,
people want to discredit everybody right now.
I know. But basically, he found that poetry captured a lot of what he was discovering in his therapeutic modality.
Yeah, I mean, there's something about poetry. I remember when I was teaching poetry to the kids, they would say to me, "Mr. Dacquino, how long does it have to be?" Yeah. And I say, long enough to cover the subject, but short enough to make it interesting. Yeah. And they say, "Does it have to rhyme?" If it works better that way. Okay. Does it have to be long or short? Well, it depends. How many verses does it have to have? Yeah. And I would try to sum it all up by saying, poetry is the ability to write what you feel. It's sharing your emotions and feelings with others, whether they're funny or sad or angry, whatever those emotions are. It gives you an opportunity to share that emotion. Yeah. So that is what poetry does. Yeah.
Well, I love that you described it that way too, because when I began going into schools, basically it's like being a substitute teacher, because the kids don't know you, you're there for a short period of time, so you kind of have to prove yourself up front. Yep. And I just backed into a way that I found out I could get kids who wouldn't write otherwise to write poetry, and I basically took away the fear and I gave them freedom. Yeah. I took away any misconceptions they had.
That's right. That's the thing. Yeah. I mean, I remember, and I did this experimentally too, is after we finished whatever unit we were on, I would say, "Well, guess what the next unit's going to be? Poetry." And the kids go, "Oh." And you go, "Yo, you who went, oh, I have a question for you. How many poems have you written?" "Duh, none." Yeah. "Why?" "I don't do that." Yeah. I said, "You don't do what? What is a poem?" And they were like, da 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 da. No. That's that poem. Yeah. And they have to learn that there's, we pre-learn things that make other things that we need to know suffer. Yeah. In these preconceptions of what things are. And a lot of teaching is unteaching. And helping people see things in a different way, including poetry. And then once they learn poetry, they can then learn how to teach things themselves in a different way.
Yeah. So two questions to explore that I use whether I'm teaching poetry or I use it with my coaching clients as well, are simply when somebody has a strong reaction to something, whether it's positive or negative, they're really happy and joyful, or they're angry or fearful. The first question is the easy one. So what is it about that, whether it's another person or that event, what is it about that
gives you
elicits
negative
that
feelings.
attention, you know, that reaction in you?
Yeah.
And that's the easy one, because they can usually point to it. But then the second question, which is the secret, hit them over the head question, is, so what is it about you such that you respond to that the way you do? And that's what usually stops us in our tracks, because now it's an interior exploration.
Right.
I can't blame Vin for how I feel.
Right. It's not what you're seeing. It's what you're feeling as a result of what you're seeing.
Yeah. And it's how you're seeing and what lens you're looking through.
Yeah.
And so that's simple. Those two simple questions, in some cases, are just enough to open somebody up. Not everybody, but they say, "Oh, I never really thought of that before."
Yeah, one of the awakening moments. Now, my last years in teaching was not teaching children. Okay. I was the director of teacher training, so I had a teacher center, and I would bring teachers in to do workshops. And one of the biggest revelations for them is to help them to understand that not everybody sees the way you see. And often, kids, we say, "I don't like the way you're acting." What we're really saying is, "I don't like the way you're reacting." That many of the times what we see in a child is a reaction to what we give. For example, a kid is in a room alone, standing by the teacher's desk, and the teacher walks in and says, "What are you doing?" Immediately the kids can say, I wasn't taking anything." Say, "Who said you were taking anything?" You did. Yeah. You did, by the way, your tone of voice to that kid, and you put him on the defensive. And what you're accusing him of, the action you're accusing of, is your reaction to what you said. So we have to understand that what the world is doing out there has a lot to do with who we are and what we've learned through the years. That's why poetry is really important, because I believe poetry is a series of revelations. A revelation for the poet and a revelation for the person reading the poem. And that's what it's about. It's about understanding what is between the lines and not always what's on the line. Give me another one there, Reg.
So you know what I'm actually going to do, because of what you just said?
Tell me.
I'm going to read a poem that we used to introduce this book that's not mine.
All
but
right.
it's a perfect follow-up to what you just said.
Okay.
And it was originally written in Spanish by Roque Dalton, who was a Central American poet. I think he was from El Salvador, but don't quote me on that one. Okay. It was translated into the English by Jack Hirschman. And the title of the poem is Like You. Like you, I love life, the sweet smell of things, the sky blue landscape of January days. And my blood boils up and I laugh through eyes that have known the buds of tears. I believe the world is beautiful and that poetry, like bread, is for everyone. And that my veins don't end in me, but in the unanimous blood of those who struggle for life, love, little things, landscape and bread, the poetry of everyone. So I've used that poem with third graders and postdoctoral professionals. Yeah. And they can third graders need a little bit of help with the word unanimous.
Right.
And a couple of other words, but everybody gets that. Like you, we share this common humanity.
Yeah. And to find that commonality is what it's all about. Because I don't care what the other person is like. Some of the greatest joys in my life have been finding the pleasant moments in an unpleasant person. And it's been amazing. People that were hated by other people. When you learn to be a writer or a poet, you learn to see through others' eyes. Yeah. You know, the kid said to me one time, Mr. Dacquino, what do you like most about writing? About writing kids' books? Mm-hmm. Because we were talking about young adult literature. I said, being on both sides of a kiss. And he said, what? I said, when you're a writer, you have to know what it's like to kiss and be kissed. Mm-hmm. So you have to be the boy and the girl. You have to be the mother and the son. Yeah. You have to be the teacher and the student. You have to put words in both of their mouths. So you have to see both sides of everything. Yeah. And that makes you see life much clearer. Yeah. To understand what people say before they say it is a gift, and it's something that has to be honed. Being a good reader and being a good writer is adding to your life in every way possible. It takes you to places that people haven't gone to, emotionally and realistically. Yeah. So what do you like most about being a writer, Reg? And you have about 1 minute and 45 seconds to tell us.
I have a desire, and I find a great joy both in my solitude and in my intimacy with other people. By intimacy, like we're sharing right now, in the broadest meaning of that word. But writing allows me to explore in a way that's, first of all, safe. Second of all, is not necessarily permanent. It allows me to go back and revise. And my favorite definition, I'm sure you're familiar with this, of revision is to hyphenate that word, to revision, to see again where the writing wants to go. So there's this great freedom and safety in it. And then I can choose to, if I want, to put some poems between the covers of a book and put them out there in the world and then duck. Because once you put them out in the world, as you know, you have no control over who's going to like them, dislike them, throw tomatoes, or bow down and say thank you. Not that anybody bows down. But I love both the freedom and the safety of it. Yeah.
One of the most amazing revelations I've had as a writer is understanding that I have the opportunity to meet somebody I thought I knew well, but never did. Me.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's Reg.
And really
meeting you is another treat.
Thank you.
It's been wonderful sharing, getting into it with you. I hope you enjoyed getting into it with us. It's been a treat having you here. And Reg, it is definitely a treat having you here.
Thanks,
keep on writing, keep on doing what you're doing.